Thank you for joining us today for our seminar in the Journey to Science series at Onondaga Community College. This seminar is sponsored by the Bridges to Baccalaureate grant. Today, we are welcoming Daniel Scott-Blakley, a second-year engineering science student at OCC. Daniel completed an internship at Cornell University this summer, and he is here to share his experience. Welcome, Daniel. If you want to just briefly introduce yourself to our students, kind of tell them what you do at OCC, and then share a little bit about what you did this past summer.
Sure, thank you for the intro. So I'm a rising sophomore at OCC. I'm an engineering science major, and through the LSAMP program, I got accepted to do a summer internship at Cornell University. So the process for joining that, I'll just start there. It's the requirements are just to submit an application. So you have like a cover letter, personal summary, referral letters, and they also send you like their own personal like application form to fill out. I think I would just like to emphasize that the personal summary is probably at least in my case, it was the most important part. You can kind of describe yourself and talk about why you think you'd be a good candidate to go. Is it okay if I start there?
Yeah, no, that's great.
So they do pay attention to like your extracurricular interests. So talking about why you're interested in like engineering or whatever kind of internship you want to apply for does help a lot. So don't be afraid to talk about yourself like personally and why you enjoy it. And then also the summer research or the internships are largely to give experience. So as mentioned, as you said earlier, it is like an investment on the future generation. So a lot of people will be worried about they're not far enough ahead or there's many other better candidates, but that's not the point. They're just trying to give people an experience so that way they know what to prepare for later. So it's an excellent opportunity for like practice and gaining experience and then learning what you'll be interested in later. So in my case, I was on the fence between mechanical and electrical engineering. I had no idea what type of engineering field I wanted to go for. And I was honest about that in my resume and personal summary when I told them that. I said I had a wide variety of interests in many sciences, and I was trying to decide between those two. And they told me that I sounded like a good candidate and that the summer internship would provide me like an experience or a chance to probably narrow down what type of engineering would be best for me. So in my case, it was a learning experience largely, and it did help me figure out what I want to do later as well. So I spent time there doing research on a project called IFROS, which is a mouthful. I'll just break it down real fast. So it stands for Integrated Pumped Hydro Reverse Osmosis System, and it combines reverse osmosis desalination to provide fresh water through like a filtration system. It combines that with supplying or storing energy through pumped storage hydropower. So my research experience there was learning how to find good locations to build something like that.
So it sounds like you had some real world application problems to solve, how to make ocean water potable and how to do so while also creating some energy.
That part was largely established already. So since that was already established, I just had to learn about the model that they were using already and just have a decent understanding of it. And then I worked on, again, finding good locations to build it, not so much the system itself.
Mm-hmm. And were you able to find a good location?
A few. And sorry, I misspoke. So not just finding good locations, but establishing a methodology on how to find good locations. So that way the next interns who come in after me would be able to follow those steps and they can do the same thing that I was working on. So I worked on that, yeah.
It sounds like you very much were part of a much larger project and you worked on one puzzle piece of this project and also left more work for the next person behind.
Yeah, a lot of it ends up being that way.
That's a very good description of research science. A small piece of a large puzzle and your work created more knowledge and more work for somebody else. Now, you mentioned that the process it was a little bit more involved than just filling out a job application. So you had to write a statement, get some letters of support. What is that? Can you say a little bit more? Support letters for a student who may not be familiar what that is?
Yeah, so support letter is just coming from somebody in a position that is, I guess, recognizable as their opinion of a student being good for a position has some weight to it. So having like a good physics or engineering professor who can write a statement for you, or somebody in any good position, really, if it's somebody who you know does work as an engineer, them writing a letter of recommendation can help a lot. It's good to ask ahead of time. I ended up asking like a few days before the due date. So mine actually ended up being a day later than the submission deadline, but they still made an exception for me. But do not count on that happening.
So now, having had this experience of rushing just a little bit, yet being successful in the end, if you had to go through the process again, what would you recommend as a starting point on the calendar? If a student said, I think I'm interested in an internship, what should they be doing right now? What should they be doing in the next few months?
So you can do these at the same time, but I would definitely work on building a resume and deciding on who would be your best bet on asking for letters of recommendations. For most of the internships, I think they only ask for 2 of them. So I would ask your professors, advisors, or people you know who work in a related field for those ahead of time, and then work on a resume and a personal summary. They usually give a description of what they want in a personal summary or a personal essay. So I would try to stick to that, but like don't be afraid to express yourself and talk about like your passion or interests, because that's what they're looking for. It's not all academics or grades or just like school related stuff. They want to know that you're actually interested in it outside of that.
So some demonstrated interest in the field, which it sounds like you had.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, now that you've completed this internship, what does your path look like going forward? Has this internship made a difference in that path? Has it shown you what you do or maybe do not like?
Yeah, it showed me that I don't really like the electrical or computer engineering as much as I thought I would. Well, electrical is pretty wide. So some aspects of electrical engineering do really interest me, but the computer related things I don't really find as interesting. So I ended up leaning more toward systems engineering or mechanical or environmental. And I also learned that it doesn't matter like too much which engineering field you decide to go for, because almost actually pretty much every real world project is multidisciplinary. So it'll be multiple engineering fields working together simultaneously on a project. So you'll end up doing a lot of work that's outside of your field. So it tends to not matter too much. Like I've met people with electrical engineering degrees who had mechanical engineering positions and vice versa. So I'm just saying that to say that there isn't really a wrong way you can go for the engineering, unless it's something that's like way different.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you've made a lot of, you've learned a lot of practical things for your future career path.
Yeah.
Along the way, and it sounds like maybe you met a few people who were influential as well.
Yeah.
Now, you are in your 3rd semester currently at OCC. What does the future look like? Where do you see yourself next year and then 5-10 years down the line?
Next year, I want to see if I can transfer to Cornell, because it was an amazing university. I love being there. And Ithaca has some gorgeous scenery, a lot of waterfalls, trails. It's a nice amount of things to do there. And then the atmosphere at Cornell, like everybody was focused and like doing good things. It just felt good to be there. So if I can get into Cornell, that would be great. And if not, then I was also looking at RIT and forgot the name of the third one. Clarkson.
So those are all excellent engineering schools. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, though I would have to agree with the scenery in Ithaca being the best choice out of those for the outdoor activities. Now, 5-10 years down the line, what do you think you will be doing? What kind of engineering, what kind of projects will you be working on?
So I ended up straying away from electrical and mechanical engineering, and I decided that I wanted to pursue systems engineering. So systems engineer, they work on designing like entire systems, and it's pretty general. And that's what I wanted, general knowledge that I can apply to like many different things. So I can't really say anything too specific, but I do want to focus largely on renewable energy systems, coming up with better clean energy things that we can build and use.
Well, if that doesn't sound like a worthwhile career goal, I don't know what is. So it sounds like you came away from your summer experience with a lot of plans for the future, plans for what you do want to do, and plans almost as importantly for what you don't want to be doing. Now, if you could sit down with some of our, let's say our first year students at OCC and give them some advice, what should they be looking at for the next year or so?
I would say finding ways to make yourself seem like you're taking initiative, doing things that are more than just the minimum, just doing your classes, doing your work, doing extracurricular things and applying for stuff or joining different programs. That all is very important. So I would definitely recommend they focus on looking into extra things that they can do.
And I know I think there's an engineering club. There's also the Earth Science Club. So there's quite a few ways to pursue a science interest, whether that is computer-based or engineering-based or more biology-based. There are lots of opportunities.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to speak to us today, Daniel, and best of luck on your future endeavors.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.